You know, I think one of the very best things that a person can do that wants to follow Jesus, and it's a funny way to start, but that's often the way Jesus would start. He would say something hard, and you're like, that's not exactly how you're going to grow a church, is by saying the hard things, but it's what he did. And so let me say something hard. For me, the more intimate I've become with Jesus, the more I've realized it's tied with spiritual disciplines. And let me tell you what I mean by that. I work with a lot of high school students, and every day I have the opportunity, I walk through the weight room, and the guys in there are lifting weights and working out hard, and they've got a big mirror in there, and I watch them continually glance over and check how big they're becoming. And what I often like to remind the guys is that C.S. Lewis said that we're called to be men with chests, but not necessarily in the physical sense, but men built out of grit and courage about what it means to follow the Lord. And in my life, I'm not as disciplined as I need to be in the gym and lifting weights as the guys do at school, but what I have found is very helpful for my spiritual health is the disciplines. And there's no total list of all the spiritual disciplines. You can go on and on forever. Sometimes it's as simple as being quiet. But one of the disciplines I'd like to introduce is brought by one of my very favorite teachers. And he had a discipline that every morning when he woke up, he had memorized the 23rd Psalm, and he would be just very simple. He'd recite it before he got out of bed. And there's a part in the 23rd Psalm, and it's an image of the Lord being like a shepherd, and a shepherd that was taking care of its sheep. And it's a very caring picture of who God is and his love for us. But one of the things that we're told in that passage is that the Lord's here to guide us through all sorts of bad stuff, and he will not always take the bad stuff away. And one of the bad things I'd like you to think about is our enemies. There are people out there, there are spiritual forces out there which are our enemy. And one of the things that we're told in the 23rd Psalm is that the Lord prepares a table before us in the presence of our enemies. And so if I could ask you to picture a table, and it's got lots of yummy food on it, it's a banquet, it's a feast. And one of the journeys in my life is I've embraced this discipline of reading the 23rd Psalm or reciting it in the mornings when I wake up. I can't always remember all of it, but I can remember parts of it. And one of the parts that sticks with me the most is this idea that the Lord prepares a table before me in the presence of my enemies. And some days are better than others. Some days are easier than others. And one of the things that I'm learning as I live this passage and I try to imagine myself at a table, and the Lord's presented this big, beautiful feast before me, and the Lord's sitting here at the table eating with me, right? And we're enjoying the good food together. But I also know that around my table could be my enemies. And he prepares that table before me in the presence of my enemies. One of the things I'm learning is that at times I let people sit at my table a little too close than I should. And am I letting just the Lord sit with me and talk with me and speak to me and whisper to me? Or am I letting other voices at my table engage and define who I am? One of the things I'd really encourage you to think about at the very center of your being, at the very center core of who you are, there's a little part of you I like to call the will. It makes decisions. And this decision-making center decides who you're going to let in your life, who you're going to let sit at your table, who you're going to let speak into your life. And that center part of who you are then begins to inform what you think about. It begins to inform how you feel about things. It begins to inform what you do with your body. It begins to inform every part of who you are. And so what I want to speak to is that center, core, decision-making part of who you are. And I want to ask you to think about, who do you allow to sit at your table? Who do you allow to speak into your world? And if you think about it, what we're told is that Jesus walked about us. He died a cruel death on the cross. We know that he rose from the dead, but we also know that he came back. And we also know that one of the gifts he left us was his Spirit. And I picture this bucket pouring out among the people that loved him, and it was changing. And I picture the Spirit flowing into the center part of who they are, touching their will, and there was such a powerful connect there that began to shape what they thought about, what they felt, what they did with their bodies. It informed their relationships, who they let sit at their table. So I just want to challenge you to think about this for a minute. Who are you letting sit at your table? The Spirit of God is pouring into you. You've got a decision to make. And let me encourage you, maybe every morning when you wake up, maybe memorize a line or two from the 23rd Psalm. It might be a really powerful way to start your day.